Hello, this is Jen. I am the owner of the Leaping Fae, and today I'm going to talk to you while I do a little bit of work with watercolors. Today I'm going to be using the Aquacolor crayons, one of my favorite sets, and I'll be using Arches cold pressed paper. I have the details written here if you can see them. It's 140-pound paper. I'm also going to be working with this paintbrush, the Winsor Newton number 4. I just picked this one up recently and still I'm playing with it to see if I like it. Currently I'm testing different products to see what sort of things I'd like to carry in my store when I get the brick and mortar. And I've been playing with the watercolor to kind of see how the different brands work on the papers and see which ones I tend to prefer and see the different things they do so I can be better informed when I'm stocking my store and when I'm talking with customers. I've been painting with watercolors for as long as I can remember. I'm a self-taught artist. I am by no means a professional, but experience can teach you a lot of things, I believe. My first earliest memories of working with watercolor are sitting at my grandmother's kitchen table. I must have been like a toddler, and using those watercolor coloring books where it was like blank pages with pictures that had little dots of color in it, and you would just use plain water on your brush and take the brush over the dots and the colors would just kind of appear. How many of you remember doing those? I don't know, that must have been mid-70s when I was doing that. Do they even still make those? I'm not sure. I think they had them when my kids were little. Anyway, just so this is the first video for the Leaping Fae YouTube page, and I'm testing it out. I'm new to this, so I'm figuring things out. So I appreciate you being patient with me while I figure out how to host a video, what sort of things to show in a video. A little bit about myself, a little intro. I am a Jersey girl, born and raised. I have lived in multiple areas of the state. I grew up in Sussex County, got married, and we moved various places. Went to school in Ewing at what is now called the College of New Jersey, but what I will always call Trenton State. We lived in Fanwood after. We lived in Jersey City. We lived in Silverton area of Toms River. So we've kind of been in all sorts of areas of the state, which is what's great about New Jersey, is so many different places. You get a lot of different experiences depending on where you're living. You can go city, you can go beach, you can go country. I miss the mountains of Sussex County a lot. We currently live in Ocean County, and it's as a northern New Jersey person, I like it here. The traffic here in summer can be kind of much, and the streets are very parallel and very flat. I'm not used to that yet. I've been here a long time and still find it strange. When I go back and visit Sussex County, it feels very much like homecoming and reuniting with the mountains and the lakes. Anyway, my intention for this channel is to just share with you some art while I make it, even if it's something like this where I'm just testing colors and testing a process. working with how the water moves on the paper. Like I've noticed this really soaks up the water quickly. And I want to saturate it a little bit more. This is a piece of paper that I cut right from the block from the Arches Aquarelle paper. So, because I don't like to, like I have a big block, but I like to work more diminutive scale. And I was realizing, like, when I work in color, I tend to not, like, I don't know, I tend to work in very natural colors a lot. Like, I tend to do a little more realistic work. And I was learning how to do these transparent petals on flowers. And we were watching Wednesday, which one of my favorites. It's fantastic. Totally love the gothy stuff. And I was like, why am I not making black flowers? So now I'm making black flowers. So much more fun. But I kind of like, I like how you can get the different shading and how it looks on the paper. Notice how each one of these is coming out different. Not how I meant it to be. I want to pull a little bit more color from this first one. Anyway, so the goal here, like I said, is to share different creative activities that I do. Maybe I'll get some guest people in here with me doing some things in the future. Who knows where this is going to go, but I'm starting a business called the Leaping Fae, and it's going to be not just art, like traditional art, but creative arts, anything that falls under the description of creativity. That's what we wanted to talk about, what we want to share with people. We're a queer-owned, women-owned business, and we need to, I think it's important to create a safe space for people of the queer community, but, you know, everybody. A safe space to sit and be creative and explore different things that you wouldn't normally have access to. There's not a lot around where I live. You know, there's places to go to buy things, but not necessarily community spaces. And so I'm looking to hold some virtual classes soon, and we're going to build it up to having a storefront where we can have these classes. And, you know, if you're interested in taking a class, I'd love to hear what kind of classes you might want to take. If you're interested in teaching a class, I'd love to hear what sort of things that you do that's creative that you would like to share with people. Like, do you do knitting? Do you do coloring? Do you do oil painting? Are you a singer? Are you a musician? Let's get creative people together and learn from one another. Look how this moves. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. I feel more comfortable holding the paper rather than leaving it flat because I feel like I can see the glare of the water better, so I know where the water is and what areas are still very saturated with water. So I can now take a dry brush and pull up some color if I think there's too much there. It's kind of cool. I don't know, the bleeding on the side, I'm not so sure. What kind of watercolors do you do? What do you like to use? What tools do you use? Do you have a preferred paper? Do you have any tips and tricks? Different sorts of things. Have you tried that technique where you throw salt down on it? I tried that in the past, but I don't really do a lot of art and where I feel like I want that texture just now. Like I said, I'm not trained in any way. I'm self-taught. I just try it out. I throw myself in and see how it goes. It's kind of cool with the black. I really love this shading that's happening in here. Nice. Right, so I want this part to dry. See how it's still a little wet there. So maybe I'll do a different color over here. Maybe I'll try smaller and see how smaller works. Some people use the crayon directly on the paper. I like this, the control of how I can spread the color by just taking it on my brush from the crayon and tapping it lightly into the wet of the paper. I feel like I get, you know, that bleeding, as scientists say, the capillary action of the water and the paper. I feel like it's a very organic sort of pattern. It looks really cool. When, you know, I'm trying to go for like an implied flower petal. And I feel like that's very organic sort of pattern to what would happen in what you'd see on an actual pattern on a petal of a leaf, petal of a flower. Right? Kind of neat. Check in on the black, see how dry the black is getting. So, yeah, this is my first video, like I said, so thanks for being patient. Thanks for sticking with me for a little bit here while I sort of ramble on and talk about what I'm doing. I'd like to get a storefront somewhere in Monmouth or Ocean counties, depending on the cost. But we'll see where that goes. We're working on it. We're working on it. We're going to have a Kickstarter within the next 6 months, I believe. We're going to start having classes, which I'll talk about here once we get them on the calendar, but they're already in the works. They're going to be virtual classes. So anyone from anywhere could join in. We're going to have a series of poetry classes taught by a wonderful poet who we'll talk about more as we start to advertise those classes. And we're going to have some art theory classes. I think the first one we're going to do is color theory, taught by a professional illustrator, somebody who has a little more technical experience than what I do. And that's a color theory class that can apply to anybody who uses color. It could be, you know, not just a traditional artist, but also, you know, what if you do fiber arts or something, like picking colors for different yarns and what you're making with your crochet. It's always good to understand color and elevate your work with like informed decisions about the color you're picking, not just because you like the color. Sometimes when we pick colors just because we like the color, they don't always go together. They don't always look right. So when you understand the theories behind it, the psychology behind it, it kind of elevates your work, you know? Makes it informed decisions. How to make your favorite color pop more. Right? How to use light and shadow, contrast with your colors. We're also going to be, if you're in the Toms River area, we're trying to get some in-person classes, which we'll talk about then. once it's confirmed. But you'll learn a little bit about anatomy and use of shapes with living creatures. All right, so I think this first set seems to be dry enough that I can put the next layer on. I wish I could remember. I saw somebody doing this online and it inspired me to try it out. I didn't follow exactly how they do it, but I can't remember the name of the user. But to try to make, I think I'm going to work with this one. To make the petals overlap each other. Right now I'm just using clear water over it. And it doesn't have to be like a perfect oval shape, right? It's a petal. Should have let it dry a little bit longer maybe, but we'll see. What's nice if you're doing it all the same color like this is that it can overlap and bleed a little and it doesn't wreck it. But you want to play with where the water takes the color so that I try to like push the darker to the outer edge so you can see that hint of where the petal is. Anyway, starting to get ready for the back to school season. I am a teacher. Believe it or not, I teach math. A lot of people think I should be teaching art, but it's not where my degrees lie. But it's kind of cool because sometimes I bring the math into my art. Make this a little wider. I like to try to figure sacred geometry into patterns of things that I create. Let me see if I can. Something I was practicing with. Sorry about the noise. Right? Here's the same technique using different colors, right? But taking the geometry into it. And I did it with like a rainbow pattern. And then I outlined using the super thin black Prisma. It's kind of fun. Look how cool that looks. See the overlap and how you get these nice little gradients in here. To quote our friend Bob Ross, it's a happy little petal. Get a little bit more black on here, a little bit more of a defined edge on my push it up. Some people think watercolor is difficult. I think it just takes a little bit of patience and willingness to play with it. And, you know, in all art, don't expect perfection, right? Like, just be willing to take the chance. Take the leap. That's why we're called the Leaping Fae. So, I'm going to just keep going on this, but I think this is a good time to stop the video and just wish you all a wonderful day. And, you know, my daughter's videos always say, get out there and make some art. I'm not going to steal her line, but I think you should get out there and take a leap. Take a leap into art. Give it a shot. Don't be afraid. It's the process and the fun of making it that counts, not the final product. Have a great day.